Today, we're going to demystify the world of project management. We'll break down the core framework that takes any project from just an idea to a huge success, step by step.
I mean, have you ever seen a project just go completely off the rails? We've all been there, right? It starts with all this excitement, but then deadlines start slipping. The budget just blows up, and the final thing is, not what anyone had in mind. It's a story we see way too often.
But what if I told you there's a proven way, a real framework to stop that chaos before it even starts? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to follow a project's entire journey, from that first little spark of an idea all the way across the finish line.
Okay, so to get started, you got to understand this fundamental tension that's at the heart of literally every project. Think of it like a constant balancing act, you know? A push and pull between these competing forces that every single project manager needs to master. This is what's known as the triple constraint, or sometimes people call it the iron triangle. And honestly, you can think of it like the law of physics for project management. You've got these three key factors and they are all tied together. You just can't tweak one without messing with at least one of the others. It's impossible.
So the first corner of our triangle, that's scope. This is the what. It's everything, all the work that needs to get done, every single feature, all the final things you have to deliver. Basically, it answers the question, what exactly are we building here?
Next up, the second corner, time. This one's pretty straightforward, right? It's your schedule, your deadline, how long is it going to take to do all the stuff we just defined in the scope.
And rounding it out, the third corner is cost. This is your budget. It's the money, yeah, but it's also the resources, the people, basically everything you need to actually get the job done.
And what's sitting right in the middle of all this, getting pulled in every direction? Quality. See, quality isn't some separate lever you can just pull. It's the result of how well you balance the other three. Think about it. A client wants the same exact scope, but they want it faster and cheaper. What's going to give? Almost every time, it's the quality. What I think is so cool is how different approaches handle this. Like, traditional project management tries to lock in the scope first. But Agile? They'll fix the time and cost in these short sprints and let the scope be a little more fluid. Totally different philosophies.
Okay, so we've got this balancing act in our minds. How do we actually structure a project? How do we take a fuzzy idea and turn it into a rock-solid master plan?
Well, the standard framework, the one laid out by the Project Management Institute, or PMI, gives us this really clear 5-phase roadmap. It walks us through everything: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and finally closing. Let's dig into what actually happens in each of these.
All right, phase 1 is initiation. Now, the goal here isn't to get bogged down in every tiny detail. It's all about getting the official green light. The main thing you create here is a document called a project charter. This is the big one. It formally says go and gives the project manager the power to start using resources. It's also where you start figuring out who your key stakeholders are. You know, anyone and everyone who has a stake in how this project turns out.
And once you have that green light, you move into what is arguably the most critical phase of all: planning. Seriously, if you mess this part up, the rest of the project is pretty much doomed. The whole goal is to create that master project management plan. And a key tool you're going to use is something called the work breakdown structure.
The work breakdown structure, or WBS, is just brilliant in how simple it is. The idea is you can't manage what you can't define. So you take this huge, scary project, like, say, install a new security camera system, and you chop it up into smaller, much more manageable pieces. We call these work packages. So a work package would be something really specific, like install the camera in the lobby or run the cable to the server room. See? Now you have something you can actually give to someone and track.
All right, our master plan is locked and loaded. It's time to put the pens down and start doing the work. Welcome to the action phases.
So phases 3 and 4, execution and monitoring, they actually happen at the same time. Execution is exactly what it sounds like. The team is actually doing the work. This is when your crew is pulling cables, they're mounting those cameras, and by the way, this is where most of your budget is going to get spent. But at the exact same time, the project manager is in the monitoring and controlling phase. They're tracking how things are going compared to the plan and dealing with any changes that pop up.
So how do you keep track of all this moving work? Well, two classic tools are Gantt charts and PERT charts. A Gantt chart, it's a simple bar chart, really. It's perfect for showing a high-level status to your boss. It answers the question, are we on schedule, super clearly. But its big weakness, it doesn't really show you how tasks depend on each other. And that's where a PERT chart, or what we call the critical path method, comes in. It's more like a network diagram that lets you see those crucial dependencies.
And this brings us to probably the single most important idea in scheduling, the critical path. Now, the critical path isn't the shortest path through the project, it's the longest chain of tasks that depend on each other. And why does that matter? Because it dictates the absolute shortest time your project can possibly be finished. If any task on that path gets delayed by 1 day, your entire project finish date gets pushed back by 1 day. There's literally zero wiggle room. Zero.
Of course, let's be real. No project ever goes exactly to plan. So let's talk about the common hurdles that can totally derail a project, and more importantly, how you deal with them.
Okay, the #1 project killer has a name: scope creep. This is what happens when the project scope just starts growing and growing, without any changes to the budget or the schedule. A stakeholder casually says, "Hey, while you're at it, can you just add 5 more cameras?" Or maybe a team member does something called gold plating, adding extra features that nobody even asked for, just because they think it's cool. Each little change seems harmless on its own, but trust me, they add up fast.
So the million-dollar question is, how do you fight it? How do you protect your project and stay in control?
The answer is a strict, formal change control process. No change, I don't care how small it seems, gets approved on a whim. It has to be formally submitted, reviewed by a change control board, and analyzed for what it's going to do to your costs, your time, and your resources. If the stakeholder still wants the change after seeing the impact, great, but it gets officially added to the plan, and everyone knows what the trade-off is.
Another massive hurdle is just bad stakeholder communication. You could have a project that's technically perfect, but it can still be seen as a failure if your stakeholders aren't happy. The key here is to realize that one size does not fit all. Your CEO, she doesn't need to know the IP address scheme for the new cameras. She needs a high-level update. Are we on budget? Are we on time? The IT director, though, he needs exactly that technical info. And the people who will actually use the system, the guards, they just need to know how to work the new equipment. You have to tailor your message.
So we've navigated the hurdles, the work is finally done, and the finish line is in sight. But a project isn't really over until you've formally closed it out.
The final phase is closing, and this is where you make it all official. This involves some practical stuff, like a punch list, a final list of tiny fixes, and handing over as-built drawings that show how everything was actually installed. But you know what? Maybe the most valuable step of all is documenting the lessons learned. This is a really honest review of what went right and what went wrong, so the whole organization can get better next time.
And that really brings us to the final crucial point. The project's done, the cameras are working, great. But the real goal of a great project manager, it isn't just to get this project done. It's to use everything you experienced, especially the lessons you learned from the mistakes, to make sure the next one is even better. That's how you turn project management from just a task into a real, powerful capability.